Welcome to Dare to Be Us. Hi, I'm Ruth, founder of The Corner Peach and the host of Dare to Be Us. Welcome back to Dare to Be Us. Finally, I'm here again after, time for myself. I had to rest. I was going through a lot and got into a surgery. So that's why I haven't been here, guys, but I'm back. And I'm really happy because I'm here with Vanessa. Welcome to the podcast, Vanessa. Thank you so much for being here. Before we start, I'd like to see if you can tell us about a little bit what you do and if you want to share your socials so people can reach out to you.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
First off, I'm glad that you're here and that we're able to move forward with this podcast. I know that you've had quite a journey over the last couple of months, but I'm glad that you're moving forward and that everything's going in a healthy way for you.
Thank you.
That makes my heart happy. So I'm a psychic medium. I get messages from spirit and I receive messages past, present, and future, as well as connect with loved ones in the spirit world. So on a regular basis, what I do is readings. Sort of what I call professional psychic mediumship readings. And I also am part of a paranormal team called Maritime Investigations.
Amazing.
Yeah, or MGI. And we have some really great, exciting venues coming up over the next little while.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I can tell you a little bit about those as well.
Okay.
So with Maritime Ghost Investigations, we have been asked, we've joined in with a company called Antler Entertainment.
Okay.
And we're hosting a paranormal investigation event at a location in Lunenburg, an old school in Lunenburg. And we're looking forward to that. So that's coming up in April.
Well, guys, please, I'm going to put this, so if you share later the link, I'll add it. So, guys, welcome to see this. I'm pretty sure this is going to be super amazing.
Super amazing. And we just got confirmation as well, MGI, Maritime Ghost Investigations, that we are going to join Antler Entertainment in an event that's taking place on September 14th at Citadel Hill.
Wow.
So we are super excited about that. It'll be a paranormal investigation. Wow. We'll be there as a paranormal team with Antler Productions, Antler Entertainment, and we will be investigating Citadel Hill.
Wow, so imagine to do that. Like,
tickets are going on sale. So
really? So, we can get tickets for that. Ooh, sign me in. I didn't know that. Wow, that's amazing.
So exciting things are coming this year.
Congratulations for all of this.
Thank you.
I'm really happy. We've been connecting for a while now, and I know that you've been doing a lot of things around, and I'm so happy to hear that you guys are doing this. Like, this is so important.
It is so, I think the ghost investigation side of it is really kind of like a fun adventure for us. Yes. The paranormal team is amazing. We're all super connected. And on that note, I know for myself as a reader, as a psychic medium, I have a website where you can find me at vanessapeckford.com. Okay. And you can go on there, see more what I'm about, as well as book a session with me. Or I host workshops as well. So drum making workshops, medicine bag making workshops.
You need to tell me all of these things. I don't know why I have missed all of this.
So there's various workshops that I host as well, and topper readings, and I do individual one-on-one readings, and I also do group sessions. So if you were here with a few of your friends, I do that as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
And you can find me on Facebook under Indigenous Psychic Medium Vanessa Peckford. Again, my website, vanessapeckford.com. And our socials for the Maritime and Ghost Investigations is YouTube. You can find us under Maritime Ghost Investigations, as well as on Facebook under
Okay.
our name. So you can search that and follow our videos and see where we're going to pop up next, which you never know. Like I said, we're going to be in Lunenburg in April, and we're going to also be in Citadel Hill in September. And I know between now and then, I'm heading out to the West Coast in Vancouver because I've been invited
Wow.
out to do some work out there at a Justice as Trauma workshop and conference
That's
out there. So,
amazing.
so there's lots going on. I probably, I know that we also have
You're busy.
Neptune Theater. We've engaged
Really?
Triangles of Light, which are two other psychic mediums that I read with. We're called the
Yeah,
Triangles of Light.
and
And I think you've had an opportunity
and
to meet those
Elaine,
lovely
yes, they're
ladies.
so pretty.
I know. And so we are going to do some work, hopefully with Neptune Theater, that will be released in the next couple of months, where we were going to be, will be part of a upcoming production.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
amazing.
yes.
Well, you guys, I'm gonna put everything on the section. What's the section? Well, not the comments, but in the content section. And so you guys can, just go into the link and click and get Vanessa to do, whatever you guys want, because she's a full of surprises. um, with us, remember that we are on Instagram as Dare to Be Us, or you can find as well as the Corner Peach too if you want some conchas, and some flans, which are Mexican baked goods. And well, thank you so much for being here and to come back and still believing in us. And let's get right to our
Let's do it.
podcast. So I know that you have previously, when you started, believing in, or you become, or you're starting to open your heart for spirits and to be, connected with them. What happened before that?
So I feel like, where do I begin? I've always been connected. I didn't always understand what it was. And as a young girl growing up, I remember seeing spirit and seeing kind of different things happen around me where other people wouldn't react to it. I just became kind of, I kind of felt like it was just normal to me, and that I never knew that not everybody saw or felt things the way that I did. And come, I think all these years later, I recognize now the depth of spiritual connection I believe that I've always had, but I understand it on a different level now.
Yeah. So you were describing that you had that disbelief, right? Where did that come from? That disbelief at some point in your life, right?
Yeah, so spirituality was never something that we spoke of in my house growing up. And it wasn't until probably more recent years, in the last probably 10 years or so, that I started to be more open to spirit. And I recently had a friend that when I stepped into the spiritual side of work, she contacted me. This was a lady that I had grown up with as a young girl.
Oh, okay.
And she said, Vanessa, remember that time sitting on your front step and we were all there? I mean, we had all the neighborhood kids growing up. We'd all kind of hang out and, this wasn't yesterday. We'd
Yeah.
all, so she says, remember that time we were on your front step and you kept saying, do you see the lights? Look at the lights in that house across the road, up the
Wow,
road,
that's
flicking on and
interesting.
off in the attic. And I was, I was telling them, like, did you see that? Did you see that? And they're like, they all said yes. So at the time, I thought they saw it. And we knew the house was vacant. We knew that there, at the time, was nobody living in the house. And we could see that there was nobody coming and going from the home. And I saw these lights turning on and off in the attic. And it wasn't until, like I said, recently, this lady came to me, this childhood friend of mine, and we kind of lost touch over the years. And she said to me, none of us ever saw those lights turning on and off in the attic, but you were so convinced that you saw them that we just went along with it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So my
amazing.
response to that was, I wish somebody had told me sooner. I
Yes.
wish somebody had told me and explained to me sooner that spirit connection was a thing. I was raised in a very Catholic home, and there, I have nothing against religion at all. I think as a matter of fact, it got me through a lot in life,
Okay,
and I
that's
have a
good.
lot of respect for it. I'm just very more spiritual now. It's very much more spiritual than I ever was, and so I believe in some of it, and some of it I don't subscribe to it as so
Yes.
heavily anymore
Yeah.
in terms of how I was raised that way. But I'm very spiritual, so I see things differently.
So, what would be for the people that it's listening to us? What would be the difference between um, have a religious belief and to be spiritual? Because I feel people misrepresent or misunderstand that term of being spiritual. So, can you help us just?
Yeah, I can certainly give you
Yeah. Yes, your
take on
opinion, and
it, my
yes.
opinion on it. So, I like I said, I was raised Catholic, and as I remember, we would go to church as a family every Sunday, and I went to Sunday school, so we were very much, you know, living that life, and I think as the way I can explain it is my father was an RCMP officer, and he was in the RCMP for 35 years. But when he was young, trying to decide what he was going to do with life, he was torn between either being a Catholic priest or going into the RCMP.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people he chose RCMP, but we as a family lived a life very close to the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And there were certain things that kind of I didn't always subscribe to going to church. And as I started to step into more of a spiritual path later on in life, I understood that it was my soul telling me that it wasn't really what I felt was my belief, but the spiritual side was, if that
Okay.
makes sense. So, in terms of I believe that we have a higher source in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that we all come from that higher source.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you call them God or Buddha or
Mm-hmm.
Creator, everybody's different. I believe that we all have a
Yeah.
higher source and that we're all connected.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we get judged at a set of white pearly gates when we cross over to make our journey home to the spirit world. I don't think that we have judgment. I don't think that we should carry a fear of anything,
Yeah.
but certainly not a fear or judgment of how we lived our life,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. We're not here. I'm not certainly not here to judge,
Yeah.
and I think that we all live a very unique journey
Yeah.
in the physical world while we're here walking this path.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that when we return home to be with what I call Creator or home to the spirit
Yeah.
world, that life continues,
Yeah.
that it doesn't end, that we're not judged for the life. We have lessons.
Yeah.
We have lessons that happen here in the physical world,
Yeah.
and we also have lessons that we need to move through and helps us grow as a soul here in the physical
Mm-hmm.
world. But I believe that when we journey home to the spirit world, our journey continues, and that we learn on a deeper level during our journey home to the spirit world why things went the way they did, and how maybe we could have done things differently and reacted different or been a better human, so to speak, while we were here.
Yeah.
So I think that our journey home to the spirit world is a continuation of our journey here.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. I've heard at some point in some. I like listening to the Dolores Cannon. I like listening to a lot of podcasts. I've been listening more in Spanish lately because I speak Spanish, and and uh, you know over the different podcasts, and they have different guests. I've been listening to, and I truly believe it, and that's why I ask you that when you're spiritual, it's because you're connected to source, right? You come
Mm-hmm.
from source.
Mm-hmm.
You are you you are already beautiful. You're already deserving because he made you, and you're connected to source. And so for me, for my understanding, that's spirituality, right? That connection that you have, right? And the religion is just like uh, based on beliefs of what in the past with all of these. I don't want to get into that because
I always
but
say what a
yes.
boring world we'd live in if we were all the
Yes,
same, right? We're
yes,
all meant to have different beliefs and move
yes,
forward in different ways. And I think that everybody should be open and welcoming to what feels right to their heart
exactly.
and soul.
Yes, yes, yes. But for me, it has been beautiful to actually understand and connect that. So I wanted to share with the people so they know what's the difference, and they can maybe start looking in and start getting more connected within themselves and knowing that they have the light directly through, right?
Yes.
And that's beautiful. Um, so, what did it take you to not being a skeptic? What happened? I know that there's a story there.
I think there's many stories there. Where do I begin? My mother was an Indian residential school survivor. She was Blackfoot Indigenous from Siksika Nation in Alberta. And I believe that she's always carried a deep belief in, again, she was Catholic, but she also, to speak with her in ways, she'd speak in ways where I just felt that she believed in something greater. And for me, I know that years ago, probably, I think when I first started this journey, there was a lot that was going on in my life at the time. I know for myself, my husband and I were going through kind of those trials, tribulations, a lot of turbulence in life, our jobs, our relationship, our family, in terms of like health and that type of thing. We really had a lot of struggles going on at the time. And it was one of those moments in time where I didn't know where else to turn. I just felt so torn in many directions and not really feeling settled in life. And I think that the icing on the cake for us, it just seemed like we had aging, aging parents. His father had passed away. My mom at the time was sick. Work and our family, and it was just like one more thing. I'm like, I don't know if we can handle anything else at this time. We just had a lot of stress from every angle in life during that period of time.
I bet it was.
And then my husband came home from the doctor one day, and we had kind of, my stepmother, who's been my mother since I was so little, since I was just a young girl, she had been trying to get us to go have a reading with a psychic medium. And it was a particular gentleman named Sean Leonard. And she had done that for a long time, but we're kind of like, why would we need a medium? Like, we didn't really understand, the depth of the healing that a nice, ethical, good, truly connected medium can bring. And we were kind of like, oh, pish posh, what do we need a medium for? And then my husband came home from the doctor one day and he said, I think you should book that appointment with Sean Leonard. And I kind of chuckled. I'm like, why? I didn't understand why the change of heart all of a sudden. And he said, well, they found a lump on my neck, and maybe they can, maybe we'll get some insight or something. And at the time, we were in the midst of making a major purchase in our life, and so my mind went to, oh my goodness, what if this involves doctor's appointments? What if it's cancer? What if we're back and forth to the hospital? What ifs just overtook me. And I said, okay. I said, that's where we're at. Is that we're going to put our lives in the hands of a medium. And my husband looked at me and he said, what do we have to lose? And I thought, oh, well, really nothing. Okay. So we booked the appointment and we went. That appointment was life-changing for both he and I. And it made us look at things differently. There were so many validations of things that were going on in our life and the direction that we, were going and how we could make changes. And it just opened our thinking up to different, looking at things in a different light. And at one point, Sean looked at my husband and he said, "You think you're going to die?" And he said, "You're not going to die. You're going to have a decision you have to make, but you're not going to die." And sure enough, we went to the medical appointment. We had an appointment with a surgeon for this lump. And we went to the appointment, and the surgeon made us make a decision on whether or not we're going to have the lump removed or if my husband was going to stay, keep the lump. And it boiled down to the lump being on the carotid artery, wow. like very much on top of the carotid artery, wow. And it was a super risky surgery. Yeah. And we had to make the decision on whether or not we have the lump removed, and he chose not to. And the surgeon had told us at that point he felt that we were going to be okay. And that it wasn't necessary to remove the lump. And so we went with that, and we're very grateful to today, yes, of course, that there's never been an issue. Yeah. So it, to be in that kind of state of mind of fear, not knowing what was coming and what this all meant, and then to go to Sean and have so much validate. I mean, he validated so much in that reading for us that it was life changing, and it really got my attention. Yeah. And shortly after that, I found out that he had a course. He was going to teach mediumship through Spirit Talker Tribe, which is his course. And I kind of, with everything going on at the time in life, money was, we were strapped a bit financially because the situations we had found ourselves in at the time, between his parents being ill and us having to take on extra, property and owning our own couple of properties at the time. Our income just didn't support between property taxes and bills and, raising our family and all of these things coming at us. It was a time of stress. Yeah. And I remember when Sean announced that he was going to be teaching mediumship, I've always wanted to know. I'm the type of person that if I'm going to do something or put my belief and faith in something, I need to understand it to my own level. I need to know it for myself and prove it to myself. I've always been that way. Mm-hmm. And so when he was teaching this mediumship course, I thought, I want to join that, but I didn't know if I'd be able to afford it because of the situation we were in. Yeah. And, I really felt this voice from inside going, just do it, it will be okay. Mm-hmm. And so I followed that. For one of the first times in my life, I didn't fight the current. And I followed that. And I remember telling my husband when he came home from work that day, I joined Sean Leonard's course. And he looked at me and he said, "Do you really think that's the right use of our money right now?" Because we were so strapped. So stressed, yeah. And I said, I really feel like it is. And if it becomes an issue and I'm not able to do it any longer for some, financial reason, I feel like Sean will let me out of the course. Yeah. And I said that to my husband. And I didn't know. I hadn't asked Sean, or I just felt like it was all going to be okay. And, and then we went on with life. And I joined the course, and it was life-changing. And so at the time I joined the course, one of the first things that I did was write a letter to the universe, because I had nowhere else I felt I could turn at that point. Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, we had so much in peril and so much uncertainty at the time that I didn't know what else to do. So I sat and I wrote a letter, and I was literally like, "Dear Universe," is where I started it. And I wrote, and I just wrote, and I didn't care about grammar. I didn't care about spelling. Mm-hmm. I just felt it was what I need to do and where I needed to be in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I wrote this letter, and I don't even know how many pages it was, probably like 3 pages double-sided. Mm-hmm. And I just wrote and literally pen to paper. And I got all of my emotion out in terms of, like, what am I supposed to do if I'm going to stay doing this mediumship course? I need things in life to change. I need to know the direction of where I'm truly supposed to be going. I was feeling a little lost at the time too, because our son, we only have one child, and he was grown up and going out on his own, and in university and living his own life and finding his own way. And all of a sudden I just felt like such a an empty nester, that I was at the time I was in my early 40s, and I felt like, is this all there is to life? There
Yeah.
has to be more. So I took my letter and I went outside to my back deck and I called in my trusted spirit team and my ancestors and anybody else who was of love or light who were part of my, meant to be part of my spirit team. And I called them in and I read the letter out loud. And as I did that, I always wondered, was there somebody listening? Were they here? And when I was done that, I put the letter away and I went on with life. That night when I went to bed, I was woken up at 3:33. And then I fell back asleep. And I should say I know that I was awakened at 3:33 because I have a clock that shines the light on the ceiling. Oh. And I didn't really think much of it. And then I fell back asleep and I was woken at 4:44. And I thought, well, it kind of got my attention a little bit. And I fell back asleep again. I'm usually a pretty sound sleeper. So I was jolted awake at 5:55. And I thought, okay, there's more to this. Yes. Now, the day before, I had gone to what we call the Valley here in Nova Scotia with my stepmom and my dad. And it was on that drive that she had said something about, oh, look at that, it's 11:11. And I had to ask her to explain what 11:11 meant and what that was all about. And she told me about angel numbers. And she said they're increments of 3 numbers, and there's a message there from the angels when you see numbers that are, like 3:33, 4:44, 5:55. So as I'm lying there at 5:55, I'm thinking, oh, there's more to this, yes. Right? So I felt compelled and drawn to researching it. So good old Google. I pick up my phone and I started to Google, what does angel number 333, 444, and 555 mean? And I couldn't believe what I saw. And I was shocked. So the combination of those 3 numbers mean what you have asked for is on its way to you, that you're being guided by a higher, more divine source. And that everything is going to be okay. There was more to it, but I mean, those were the main, that you have
the main message.
The main message, and that I had other, the universe was looking after me. Yeah. And so I was there, I was like, wow. And then I got this overwhelming sensation that the house that we were trying to sell and had been trying to sell for the past few months was going to sell. And so I looked at my husband, who was just starting to stir for the day because he had to get up and get ready to go to work. I said, I think the house is going to sell. And he said, what do you mean you think the house is going to sell? I said, I don't know. I just woke up with this overwhelming sensation that the house is going to sell. And he kind of laughed because the house had been on the market for about 6 months, 8 months, something at that point, and we hadn't had any bites. And anyway, he's like, yeah, okay. So he gets up and he goes about his day, like his morning, to start getting ready for work. So before he left, he comes back in and he looks at me and he said, okay, smart ass, if the house is going to sell, he said, when is it going to sell? And I took a moment to sit there and just really go inward in my own thoughts. And I didn't know why at the time. And I looked at him and I said, it's going to sell by the end of the month.
Wow.
And he said,
is that something that you started feeling after, at that time, were you in Sean's...
I just started day 1. Okay. This was probably day 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was probably the second day of my...
I was just wondering, like you picked up really fast. Well, you already were connected, but yeah. Yes. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, that's okay. So I said to him, I feel like it's going to be gone by the end of the month. And we kind of just looked at each other, and it was just a really weird kind of feeling, an overwhelming, like strong feeling that I had when he asked me. And so I said it. Yeah. And within 2 weeks, the house was signed, sealed, and delivered to the new owners.
Wow.
And that got my attention. From there, what I can say is my husband works with a younger fella. And during the time our house was on the market for sale, my husband was after this guy. He kept saying, you know, you should buy a car. You should get your driver's license. You should buy a car. You should buy my house. And this guy that my husband worked with, he was living at home with his mom and dad, and he had no intentions of getting a car or getting his driver's license. To him, he just didn't need it.
Yeah.
And so he kept telling my husband, I'm not getting my driver's license. I don't need a car, and I'm certainly not buying your house. So this went on over the course of a few months. And one day, he comes to work with my husband, or he was at work with my husband, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, "I went and I got my driver's license." And my husband's like, "Well, congratulations." He said, "Now you should buy a car and then buy my house." He said, "I'll give you a good deal on the house."
Yeah.
And they'd have these laughs every day over it. And the guy says, I'm not buying a car, so you don't have to worry about it. I'm not buying your house."
Yeah.
And a little while later, probably a week, maybe two, if that, the young guy comes to work and he says to my husband, "You're not going to believe this." He said, "I bought a car." My husband's like, "Great, now you can buy my house." The guy says, "I'm not buying your house. I don't want to buy a house. I'm not interested in buying a house. I'm not buying your house." Now, my husband can be pretty persistent, and he's got a great sense of humor. So it was his little joke with this guy every day. He's like, "Are you buying my house? Did you buy a car? Did you buy," so when the guy got his driver's license and he bought a car, my husband every day just never, ever missed a beat. And "Are you buying my house? Are you buying my house?" So he comes to work one day, this guy comes to work one day, and he says to my husband, "You're not going to believe this." Yeah. My husband says, "You're buying my house." And the guy says, "No, but I bought a house."
Yeah.
And my husband's like, "Oh man, you should have bought my house. Like, I would have gave you a good deal on it." And the guy says, "I told you I didn't want your house." So they go on about life. And we turn and we get an offer on our house. Wow. And when we got the offer on the house, my husband recognized the address.
Wow.
The address of the home was the same address of the house, like of the buyers for our house. Their home was the house that the young guy at his work just bought.
Wow.
So we made the connection in order for our house to sell. That fella that worked with my husband had to buy the other house. In turn, the sellers of that home bought our house. Yeah. It blew my mind. Yeah. I still today to tell that story.
Yes, it's like the alignment of the synchronicities, right? It's like when we're thinking that nothing's happening, but behind curtains, universe is working out for you, right? Everything that there, it's like a puzzle. They kind of like put it and guide people, so and it gets to you.
And it wasn't until I wrote the letter to the universe, and I'm not saying it was solely my letter that changed the outcome, because I think that everything happens in divine time and with synchronicity. Yes. But I think I was meant to write that letter, and I was meant to ask for certain things and changes in my life. And it was the universe, it was Spirit's way of saying, "We have you covered." And so everything came together as it should and as it was meant to be. But I believe that me being open and brave enough to ask for help and support from the universe was a huge step in the journey for the house selling, for the change to start to happen, and for the universe to conspire to start to bring things together in a way that aligned with where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go in life. And I'll never forget it. Yeah. So it opened me up to being braver, to asking the universe for their support and their help in my journey.
And I'm guessing that's where you're starting to be more or less skepticism, and starting to connect more with yourself. Yes. And say, wow, like this is real. I get to talk with spirits. I get the information, the downloads, right? And how did you feel, right, when you started realizing that this was your journey and that you were meant to be?
I think all of these years later, I still have moments where I ask myself, did that just really happen? Yes. Did I just get that message? Yes. Am I, because I've always questioned, whether it comes to me, whether the information comes to me or from me.
Yes.
And still today in a reading, I'll be making sure that I'm tapping in to ensure that the information's coming to me and not from me. So, there's always that little bit of check-in. I check in to make sure that, I'm on the right path and that I feel like I'm moving forward in the right direction. And
I can tell you that I've experienced having a reading with Vanessa, and she is amazing. She's really spot on. She really connects. But I still wanna ask you so they can have a little bit more of clarity of whether when you know that it's not you and not the spirit, that I think that's really important, right? That you actually that you're conscious of this, right? Because people skepticism takes to people to actually believe that, whoa, what is it's just her, right? And it's not. So how do you differentiate
validations.
validation?
Yeah, I feel like validations are a huge part of the readings when I'm doing them. That I know stuff like the cookie they just ate or the chocolate they ate on the way there, or that they stopped to buy a new jacket that they thought their mother would love and their mother's passed, and then their mother comes to me within the hour of them buying the jacket and them being here for reading to say she likes your new jacket. So there's so many moments where I have validations that nobody else could know.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
And
yes.
they're validations of like I had a young lady come in here with her mom one time, and I say in here because we're in my beautiful sacred space here, but come in for a reading one time, and her and her mom sat down, and I started the reading, and I said, "You're pregnant," to the young girl, and her mouth dropped open. And she looked at her mother, and her mother looked at her, and she said, "No, you're not." Her mother says, "No, you're not." And the young girl looked at her mother. She said, "I just left the doctor's office, and I didn't have a chance to tell you before we came in here."
Wow.
And she validated in front of me, and her mother found out in that
Yes.
moment that she was pregnant. So I kind of joked, and I said, "You probably shouldn't come see a psychic medium if you have secrets."
Yes.
And there's been many occasions where I've looked at people and said, "You probably shouldn't come see me if you have secrets."
Yes, yes, yes.
And because I can't differentiate what somebody has told somebody else. I just go with what spirit
Yes,
tells me.
yes. It's a
And
truth that
it's
you
a
see.
truth that I
Yes.
see, I feel, I hear, and I know. And I speak it. I've learned to speak my truth, and I've learned to, even if I don't understand in the moment why I'm delivering the message to the sitter or to a client,
Yes.
I still know that the message isn't for me, and that it will resonate with them if it's meant for them.
Yes, yes.
So I've gotten, I say everything that comes to me now, and that's how I validate.
Yes. So I want to say if it's okay. You mentioned about your mom, and I know that residential schools right now, they're it's been talking about that in a really broad way, right? And we already know about what is happening, but I was just wondering, I don't know if you're open to share a little bit about what happened in your life as experience with your mom, and throughout your life, how did that impact you, right?
So my mom was an Indian residential school survivor, and she was from Siksika Nation, which is a Blackfoot nation. Siksika does mean Blackfoot, and she was from the Siksika Nation in Alberta. And in 67, she became the Indian princess to represent our reserve. And she came to Expo 67 in Quebec, in Montreal, and met my father there, who was just new out of the RCMP. And
Was he from Montreal? Your dad?
my dad was from here, Nova
Oh,
Scotia. Yeah, and he was stationed in Montreal
I see.
for the expo, which is where they met. And I was born within a few years of that, and the marriage never lasted. I think what happened was mom was so homesick because you know, she that was the life that she knew, was back home on Siksika on the reserve. And they ended up divorcing, but mom had coping. She had addictions, and
She's
it was a
her.
way of coping
Yeah.
with the trauma that she had been
Yes.
through from
Yes.
Indian residential school. And, I believe still that those addictions led to the separation of the,
Yeah.
like the breakdown of the marriage and mom going home. And, in trying to raise a family, I can only imagine from her perspective the challenges that brought forward. As a child,
Yes.
she was taken away from her parents and placed in an Indian residential school. And me being a mother myself, I can only imagine how hard it would be to try to let go of the fear that something might happen to your own children. And I think it spiraled her into, into addiction. And so my parents divorced, and mom went home to Siksika. And I think that Indian residential school has had a very profound effect on our family, and certainly on my mother. And we have had to find our way through the trauma and the turmoil, sort of the intergenerational trauma of the aftermath of all of that. And so where I've landed today with everything is that I'm very passionate about Indian residential school survivors and healing and the journey for them, and ways that I can help, and and really where I can make an impact. And so I've done some traveling across Canada, and I've been invited to take part in various Indian residential school healing gatherings.
Wow.
One in a small community, a very remote community, where I laugh and I say I've lived with the grizzly bears. It's true. I woke up one morning to a grizzly bear walking up the driveway, and that was
Wow.
just the norm. So, very remote areas where these communities are located, but the healing still needs to take place. And all these years later, from Indian residential school and 60s scoop and that type of thing. So, my passion today is about being able to make spiritual connection for survivors, and be there and listen and really be present and show up for them, and in ways that I'm meant to. And I take my guidance from spirit and from creator. I always say I'm here to be in service. This isn't information that comes from me. This information and guidance comes to me, and I'm just here to be that vessel, to be that person that can help in that journey. And I'm very grateful and very blessed. So I also another Indian residential school gathering is one that I've attended last year in BC, and then another in Alberta, and I'll be heading back to BC for a Justice as Trauma conference where, this year. So I'm heading back there in next month in April. And again, it's about supporting people and being there, and being able to show up in a loving way, in a healing way for those that
That
are
you
going to
are,
reach out to
yes.
me. And I just feel very blessed, and certainly it's part of my journey and what it's meant to be.
So, how did it impact you with your mom? Like not being able to have it, knowing that all the hurt that your mom had throughout her time in the residential school, and that was the motive that she had to, move away to heal, to find herself, I'm guessing, that she couldn't cope in any other way, and she decided to go. But how did you feel? How did it impact you?
I think, as such a young child, because when she moved home to her community, I was probably, I don't know, maybe 3.
You stay
years
with your
old.
dad.
Dad got custody of the three kids of his three children, and mom moved home to Siksika. So a lot of my life, even though I was raised here,
Mm-hmm.
dad went on to remarry, and then we had a blended family because
Mm.
his wife came into the mix with her three children, and then
Yeah.
they had a child between them. I laugh and
Mm.
say I call us the Brady Bunch, but so there were seven siblings, like
Mm-hmm.
me and six other siblings, and life went on.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time here in Nova Scotia going to school and having my family
Mm.
and having friends here, and then a lot of time in Alberta as well. And
Yeah.
so it was a blend of spending time in the Indigenous culture and with family on that side of it, and then family here. So I kind of walked both worlds,
Yeah.
yeah, for my childhood growing up. Um, and on the Indigenous side of it, when I was in Siksika, when I'd be there with mom, like everything was very rooted and grounded in the Indigenous culture, and I got to learn and dance in powwows and learn, on a deep level about the culture, and I'm grateful for that because looking back, I mean, Indian residential school was all about stripping the culture from our people
Yeah.
and not allowing us to speak our truth. And so you talk about Indian residential school trauma and intergenerational trauma and the lineage, right? I was a part of that, and it caused me to be, I think, very open in
Okay.
terms of how I looked at things. And I understood sort of walking, through life with a family here who wasn't Indigenous. And then I'd walk the other side of it with the family that was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really got a nice blend and mix of both sides of it. And I think even on a deeper level than that, mom being such a passionate how do I say that, like representative for Siksika, like with Expo 67, and so her being so immersed in her culture, and then dad being RCMP. And when you look at that, and dad wasn't Indigenous or isn't, I'm blessed to still have my dad with me today, but he's not Indigenous, and so it's not lost on me the fact that my father was an RCMP officer who was, it was the RCMP and the government who was heavily responsible for taking the
Removing.
children away from their parents and placing them in Indian residential school. And then my mom, who was a survivor.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a very unique perspective on both sides of it.
Yeah. Can you share that perspective on?
Yeah, I think it's a personal journey for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love my father and I love my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, having done a little bit of work with the RCMP over the years myself and understanding the trauma that it can bring, is very, how can I say that? It's very like gives me a different level of understanding, a different perspective, and certainly I've gained a lot of knowledge because
Mm-hmm.
it's not an easy job. I have a lot of respect for what police have to put up with and what they do. I've lived
Yeah.
it through working with the RCMP a bit myself, and I certainly understand the helplessness of the traumas that my mother went through as well.
Yeah.
So I look at that and it's interesting. It's an
Yes.
interesting,
It's
probably something I couldn't even put into words to be
yeah.
able to articulate, seeing things so clearly from both sides.
Do you think that you would have had it any other way? You know?
No, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't change a thing. And I believe that going back to the spiritual side of the journey here that I'm here for, I believe that I chose this journey for myself. I think that we have all lived past lives, that I've
Yes.
certainly lived past lives, and that coming into this lifetime, I chose these challenges for myself.
Yeah.
And it's not lost on me that, I'm in this situation, and have chose this journey, and so I want to live life to the fullest,
Yeah.
and be able to help others, and be able to heal, you know, the intergenerational trauma side of it for myself,
Yes.
for my son, for my family. And certainly I'm very proud of both of my parents. You know, Dad sacrificed a lot being in the RCMP, of his own, you know, well-being, and for his family and people in the community, as well as my mother going through what she did. So it's quite a journey.
The fact that your mom, you know, went through all of that, and you wanted to break that generational pattern, which I think one of the things that I would like to, you know, to do with this podcast, and the purpose of it is to inspire people to start with that breaking generational pattern, because it's so important to start on learning what we have learned and start to be truth with ourselves, and a lot of letting go, and a lot of love, compassion, empathy, that you need to be able to do that and start with your own journey, right? And you mentioned going to that you help people that have been as well with this with the schools, right? How do you help them? How do you what do you do for them? And how your journey has helped you to get to the place and say, I want to be able to help, and I know I can do this for them.
The journey with spirit guides me. It has guided me to be the person who I've become today. And I always say I'm a very different person today than I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I go with what feels right to me, and I follow my heart and soul. And I believe that when we live in alignment with what our journey is meant to be, and we don't fight the current, that opportunities open themselves to us. And I believe that I was ready for that journey, to be able to step in and be a supportive, listening person, and presence in the lives of those that I touch. And I think that I have to give the gratitude and acknowledge that it is all creator, and that I don't have control, but I know that I'm open, and that I'm willing to accept the journey, and that I trust when I'm there in the presence of these beautiful people who have who have been on the receiving end of so much trauma, that I'm here for a reason, and I'm here for a purpose, and that all of my words and all of my compassion comes from a higher source. It comes from me, but I'm guided in how I move through that, and how it all flows. Because I trust in spirit, and I trust in creator.
How would you describe when you're with that, when you're helping people? How would you describe, or how do you help them? By doing what?
I'm a really good listener. And I can offer what I call way showing and guidance. And I'm open to receiving the messages, right? Receiving from a higher power. And I can't say what's going to be said in the moment, because I can only speak when it comes to me, right? And so I know that I trust that I'm here for a divine higher purpose, and a higher, I have definitely a higher level of awareness, and I trust that, and it comes down to trust. I couldn't do the work that I do today if I didn't trust in my spiritual connection.
Trust you first as a human being, as Vanessa. Absolutely. And then trust the universe, trust the spirit. So it feels like, your personal story naturally led you into this work. When did you realize that your life experience could actually help others? Heavy truths.
Yeah, I think that Creator guides us on our journey, and that it was through a series of synchronicities that brought me into doing spiritual connection work. Mm-hmm. And that journey continues to be done through a series of synchronicities for me. I'm always open to looking for signs and validations to make sure that I'm on the right path, that I'm doing the right thing. And so I started doing some work. Like I said, it was synchronicity that brought me to do the work in that remote community, living with the grizzly bears for a week, and more synchronicities that brought me to be able to do the work that I do on the West Coast and in Vancouver. And I very much believe that I'm there to help hold space, to be able to create a safe space for people to talk about their experiences, regardless, on any regard or any level of what that is. And that I trust that.
So is that, what would be like holding space for you?
Listening. Finding moments where I know that it's not about me, and that I'm there to be a calming presence, a calming, steady presence in this person's life. And that I think what's helped me in this journey is that I've healed a lot of traumas in my life that have happened in my journey. And in order to be able to show up and be present and really listen to those in need in the moment, I needed to go through that. I needed to work through that healing journey for myself and know that it's not about me. It's not about having them here in the moment or me trying to compare myself to them in the moment. It's about understanding the level of hurt and trauma that they're reliving in that moment, and just being there. So I do that in my readings as well, like on a daily basis. I understand that this journey, when I'm with somebody and I'm talking to them about their journey, that's not about me. I'm just the messenger.
Yes.
And in all of the healing work that I've done and I've ever done, it's all about them. It's not about me anymore. And I have been through a lot of hurts and, like I said, a lot of traumas in my life that I've spent many years working through. And I do truly believe that until I was ready to step out of that that mindset of I need to heal me into I feel like I'm healed and able to move forward. I mean, it's always a journey. Healing is always a journey. I'm not saying that
big journey that I think never stops.
It's never going to end.
Yes.
But I sort of passed that threshold of sitting in an energy where I used to think, more of like, how am I going to do this, or can I do this, into this, I'm ready for this now.
Yes.
I'm ready to help support other people. I'm ready to be that messenger from spirit to be able to help guide them in a calming presence, in a way that's meant for them. And so I always say the journey isn't about me.
Yeah.
It's about them.
It's about them.
And I'm here to be in service to Creator.
Yes, that's amazing. Now, I want to be able to, I want you to share, about your paranormal life. Tell us more about that, because that's super exciting. I was looking some of the videos that you have on YouTube, and they seem amazing. And now that you're saying that you're going to be at the Citadel, so just so the people that, see you here, they can start following you as well, and they know what this is about. So
I'm part of a paranormal team, myself and 2 other people. And we started a paranormal team just over a year ago.
Oh, wow.
And we are called Maritime Ghost Investigations, or MGI. And we have gone around to different locations throughout Nova Scotia. I mean, we've all done before we came together as a team, we've done paranormal on our own,
Oh,
and traveled the world. The many places, many locations
wow.
around the world. But it wasn't until last year that we actually came together and decided, like, this is something that we're very passionate about and we want to do as together. And so we started Maritime Ghost
That's amazing.
Investigations. And as a team, we've been, around Cape Breton. We've been to Briar
Oh,
Island, and
wow.
all very like rich historic places in Nova Scotia. And so we are going to be doing an investigation with a place in Lunenburg and then Citadel Hill come September. So we're super excited, still finding our way of,
Mm-hmm.
through it all, but those are events that are upcoming and we're very
Wow.
passionate. We had recently gone to, this would have been, I think, in November,
Mm-hmm.
October, November of 2025. We rented a mansion called Mounts Mansion. And
Wow.
yeah, there was a lot of paranormal activity in that mansion.
Wow.
And one of the most amazing things is we had gone as a paranormal team and rented this, but we had friends that joined us, and my dad and my stepmom joined us. So it's really nice to have that kind of friendship and
Yeah.
support throughout this journey. And yeah, so you can see some of our videos on YouTube and on Facebook of Mounts Mansion and our journey in Cape Breton and our journey in Briar Island, and there'll be more to come from the school in Lunenburg and
Wow.
from Citadel Hill, I'm
That
sure.
that sounds amazing.
It's gonna be fun.
What drew you to this work?
I've always had a fascination for it.
You were
And
saying that you were looking at the shadows and the lights, right?
yes, yes, I could see the lights and I could feel the energy. And part of what I do as well is often I'll get people will contact me to help them clear energy from a home or a space or
Wow.
land. And I do that through my indigenous teachings of smudging. And so I tend to feel energy. And I like to think that I've helped a lot of people over the
Mm-hmm.
years clear energy and unwanted both energy and entities from their home, and it's been quite a journey. Like I said, there's lots of videos out there of our MGI
Yeah.
team and myself doing this, and yeah.
Do you have a story that maybe you can, like, one story of one of your, experiences as going into a paranormal? Uh,
Yes.
yes, please share
I
it.
will. I will. I have so many. But this was one of my favorites. So, a couple of years ago, my husband and I went down to Cape Breton and we were doing a paranormal investigation on a place down there called Broughton. And Broughton has a lot of rich history. You can look it up. But at one point, there used to be like a military presence and then a hotel. And we had gone back in the woods and found the ruins of this old building that was there. And we had set up a couple of recorders. And one recorder was close to me, and another one was probably about 15 feet away from me, but still on the same wall,
Mm-hmm.
ruins of the same wall. And I could, when I have spirit, like when I have an earthbound spirit around, I feel it differently in my body. It's everybody's different, every medium, everybody's different, and I know
Mm-hmm.
how I feel spirit around. And I got that sensation in the core of my body where I said, I'm feeling very cold.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's a spirit here. And going back and listening to the audio recording, we captured an EVP from spirit saying the
What?
word.
Sorry, what's a EVP?
Well, it's a voice recording,
Oh, okay.
and what they said, it was a male voice that said the word chef,
Chef, as in a
as
chef,
as
like,
in a cook.
oh, wow.
So my husband had said to me, so I said, I feel very cold. I feel like there's somebody here because I feel very cold. And my husband said, and you hear this and you see this in the video, or you hear this in the video, he says, or on the recording, he says, I, who are those people that wear a white hat and that cook? And I said, like a chef? And he said, yeah, a chef. And then we hear the word chef, but we actually, I think it was the word chef is heard on the audio before my husband said the word, like trying to figure out who this cook person is. Because he said, like, clairvoyantly in his mind's eye, he was seeing this person who was a cook with a big chef hat on.
So your husband as well can see.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So it was so funny because I remember when I joined Spirit Talker Tribe, and I told my husband, you know, that I was joining this
Yeah.
mediumship course. He said, you know, do you really think this is best use of your money? And what do you
Yes.
hope to get out of it? Do you hope to be a medium? And he laughed. And we kind of laughed together. And I said, well, you know, I don't know, but I feel it's where I'm supposed to be right now. 2 years later, after he watched me make so many meaningful connections for people, he couldn't deny it anymore. And he took the same course through Sean Leonard. And today my husband is he's very connected. He doesn't do mediumship readings per se. I mean, he will drop some messages to people if they ask, or if he has something to share. He'll do that. But he is very connected. And so he saw this chef at this Broughton location, and then when we heard the recording of it, we captured the voice phenomenon saying saying the word chef. So those are one of the videos that we have created. And another one was one where we went to the Beaver Bank radar station. And I could see an entity in a window, it was an open space, a giant open window or door had once been there. And this was in Beaver Bank, Nova Scotia, and you can't get up to that location anymore. It's all sectioned off or fenced off. But this was years ago, and we were able to. So I went up there, and I could see the spirit, sort of the shadow of this person in the doorway. And so I said, I'm going to go through the alphabet, and if you could tell me your name or the letter in your name, that would be lovely, and maybe I'll catch it on the recorder. And so as I was going through the alphabet, this lady's voice, and I could tell just by feeling and what I was seeing that it was a lady I was looking at. When I got to the letter L, she repeated the letter L. Yeah, so we were able to catch that on the recording as well. So that too is a video. But there's been quite a few.
Have you gotten a message from those spirits to deliver to, or have you helped them crossing to light?
Sometimes we do help cross them over. Sometimes, so I believe that when we pass away as a human, I think we're all a soul having a human experience, and that when it comes our time for us to make our soul to make the journey to the other side, we have an option. I believe that some of us choose to stay earthbound for whatever reason. Maybe you're fearful of judgment, of going to, you know, what a lot of people call heaven or the spirit world. Maybe you're living in fear of judgment for something that you've done here in this lifetime, or how you've reacted in this lifetime, or maybe it just doesn't make, you know, sense in your way of going to the spirit world. So some people stay earthbound. That's what I believe, and that's what I call an earthbound spirit, when our soul chooses to stay in the area where we are at our time of passing. And I think I've lost the context of your question.
That I asked you about if you have ever helped them to cross, or that if you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So they have the opportunity to stay. You know, they choose to stay earthbound. Sometimes they can't find their way home to the light. You know, when you're earthbound as a spirit and you're ready to cross over, you just need that little bit of help. So I am able to communicate with them, and I have done I have done this on many occasions, been able to get spirits from being here in the earthly plane over to the other side. You know, I do that through a series of being able to communicate with them and understanding from their side that they're ready to go. And they're not always ready to go. Some kind of like it here. Whether it's a home that they built and raised their family in, an old farmstead, you know, maybe they choose to stay here. They're just happy here, walking this earthly plane. Others have chosen to want to go home to the light. So for many different reasons. Yeah.
Wow, I have so many questions for you, and I don't know, maybe if you're open for another episode, because I've heard so many things, like, for example, that when we died, it's a different dimension.
Did that stop?
No,
Okay. I heard a
no,
ding.
no. It's mine.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Um, I have a lot of questions regarding, when we transcend, right? Because I've heard a lot of things that, when you transcend, it is not, you leave this vessel and you kind of like going into another dimension, or, or I've heard as well that, sometimes with the earthbounds, they stay here because they have different situations that they didn't get to finish, or that they have like a worried about the daughter, if they if they left, or you know and there are some others that they just crossed, and that what happened after the crossing. That's something that I've seen as well with Dolores Cannon, with all the investigations that she has done with that. How does that look like? So I don't know, like I have so many, I can give you a lot. So it would be amazing if you would like to do another episode and we can talk about that.
Yes, that would be exciting.
Yes,
I have so
because
many answers and so many experiences. It's hard to fit it
yes,
into this, the small
yes,
window of time. But yeah, I've
yeah.
experienced a lot of things on many different levels.
Okay, well, I'm excited. We can talk about this later. Um, it's time to go, but I'd like to ask you, what would you say to people, that starting this journey, that what they can do, to look within themselves and say it's time to start my journey.
I think synchronicities are a big thing. And that when we're meant to be on a spiritual journey, the path and the signs open up to us.
Yeah.
And some people don't understand why things happen in the way they do in life, or what draws them in. I can't tell you how many times I've sat with people who, I don't even know why I'm here. I was questioning why I'm coming on the way here. What do I need? Like, people just don't understand why they feel drawn sometimes to come see me as a medium.
Yes.
But I feel like in those moments, they leave here with a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you follow and trust what you're feeling. And I think that spirit guides us in the journey, and helps us be on our path in a way that is meant for us, that's truly in alignment for us, when we're open to listening and following it and trusting.
How do you stop the resistance, right? Because people resist. I've known a couple persons that they resist those signs.
Yeah, How do you? I think that I was one of these stubborn people, and I believe that for me, it seems to be I'm getting better at it, but I've always had to do things 3 times or get 3 messages. Sort of, spirit gives you that first nudge, that initial nudge. Like okay. So a few years ago, when I was working. I worked in business for many years, and I was working, and I got up like any other day to go to work. And I very strongly heard a voice tell me in my mind, it's time to leave your job. And I didn't listen. And I went to work. I wasn't going to, I had kind of like a roof over my head, food on the table, and to be able to pay my bills. It's something I've aspired to do in life. And so I went to work. And I continued to go to work, and I never gave it another thought. And a few months later, I very strongly got another message from Spirit one day when they said, it's time to leave your job. And I didn't listen. And from that moment, things started, really from the first time I heard it. And then it got stronger the second time I heard it. Things started to get really rocky at work on many different levels. And I ended up leaving my job shortly, probably within, I'm going to say, 6 months of initially hearing it's time to leave your job. I ended up leaving my job.
Wow.
And I never looked back. I had all of these synchronicities that started to show up in my life in that 6 month period that kind of, started to get my attention. First time I was like, oh no, haha, funny. Like, I think that voice is coming from me as opposed to coming to
Yes.
me,
Yeah.
because didn't feel safe for me to leave my job, in my mind. And then Spirit spoke again a few months later and said, no, Vanessa, it's time to go. And then shortly after that, I started to listen. I started to pay more attention. And then I realized, yeah, it is time to go.
Yeah.
And I walked away from doing that work. And I stepped into spiritual work full time. And was it scary? Yeah, it was. Why was it scary? Because I had to trust myself. I had to trust Spirit. I had to trust the guidance that I was receiving. And that was hard. Knowing you're not getting up in the morning to go to your 9 to 5 trusted income and living that life anymore. You were, I was transitioning into this place where I needed to trust only myself and Spirit. Yes. And that was almost 3 years ago now.
Wow.
And I'll never look back.
Yeah.
I meant to go forward and on this journey. And we talk about, the opportunities that have come up for me. And, my heart and soul is with supporting people and guiding people and being able to do that way showing. And, that's what keeps me inspired
Keep going
to keep going.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is amazing. I feel that you guys have a lot of information regarding to, go to your gut, listen to yourself, trust yourself, trust the signs, please, because, you never know. You are maybe in that moment really stuck in your life and you feel lost. Maybe it's time. So start, thinking about it. Start, um re just think about what right now is in your life and start doing something for yourself. And if you need some guidance, that here it's Vanessa. I'm gonna leave again all her socials so you guys can get in touch with her. And I'm really, really glad that you're here with us. And thank you so much for sharing all your story. It's really amazing and it's really inspiring. And I hope that you can still inspire people. And through this podcast as well, that we can inspire. It's just, I feel that we have become, all you beautiful ladies, and spread the love and spread the knowledge. And I'm so happy that you guys want to share this with me and
Thank
with
you.
the public. So
thank you for having me. This has been beautiful.
Thank you so much. So remember, guys, I'll see you guys later, and dare to be you, dare to be us. Thank you. Bye.